The secrets of distribution management, and here I'll include warehousing and delivery. You know, the thing with a great operating distribution center, it's almost like there's a sense of ease when I'm walking through the warehouse. Things are clean, they're organized, there's people not running around with tearing their hair out. It seems like there's less activity for some reason. Whereas an unorganized warehouse seems to be operating in a state of chaos. There's boxes everywhere. There's several people looking up in the air to try to find some product up on a rack that they can't find. Anyhow, the big difference of these two is not their volume. What sets companies apart is their systems and their management of their systems, which defines their outcomes. A business whose warehousing has really good systems and procedures in place and committed management to those procedures is going to operate better every time. With the systems end of things, a warehouse, first of all, only can be run with a barcoding system. You can't depend on a human being to track by pencil and paper the movement of inventory throughout a warehouse. It just does not work. It always works better in a barcoding system. It does several things. On the receiving end of things, barcode labels are printed out and organized in advance. The trucks don't just arrive and people don't scramble around. The receiving crews are ready for the trucks when they arrive with their labels organized. When the merchandise is unloaded, the boxes are labeled and scanned at that time into a holding area. Then there's a put away crew who moves it away with their pickers up to a rack location and transfers it via scanner into the away location. If it's a cross-docking situation, it might not go away. It might move to a cross-dock area so it can be pulled later. And they do this day in, day out like an assembly line. It's second nature for the people who are running the receiving aspects of these warehouses. We'll look at picking now. For deliveries, there's usually a time cutoff for deliveries. A picking list will be run for the picking staff. It'll tell them exactly where to go in that warehouse and which barcode ID to look for. It's a piece of cake. You don't even need to know the model numbers of the 20 different vendors to find the item. It's second nature. You're looking for a barcode ID and you pick it out of location, scan it to the prep area of the warehouse. That's how a properly functioning warehouse works. On transfers to the various showrooms, whether it be one showroom or 10 showrooms, they all use what's called merchandise transfer orders. This initiates the transfer of the merchandise. It's an organized way of moving merchandise between locations. One of the problems with unorganized warehouses are where they have out of location situations. So in other words, the inventory is lost somewhere in your facilities. And that happens less with barcoding transfers and MTOs and good procedures. Good warehouses also have routine cycle inventories. A cycle inventory is where a certain section of the warehouse is scanned, in my opinion, at least on a weekly basis. So this is how it would work. Someone in the office or the controller would tell the warehouse manager on random, you're to do aisle 8 through 10 cycle inventory this week. The area of the cycle inventory comes from someone not associated with the warehouse. They go and scan aisle 8 through 10 and report any exceptions back to the controller. This keeps everybody honest, keeps the inventory perfect. You know, I've seen cycle inventories in good warehouses before, and I've seen them come up with 0 exceptions. And that's what should be expected really of any warehouse operation. There should be very few errors in inventory. On the delivery side of distribution, the secret is to get your merchandise out with no issues. I highly recommend you setting up a perfect delivery system if you don't have one. So what a perfect delivery system is it tracks the number of issues that you would have on any day or week's deliveries and comes up with a percentage. If a customer calls saying, okay, this was damaged, or this was not the right product, or whatever the number of issues could happen, that minuses out of the perfect deliveries and gives them a lesser percentage. And then you can attach an incentive system on to executing perfect deliveries. It's a great way to motivate the distribution staff. There's a type of warehouse that stands out from other warehouses, and those are the warehouses that commit to the notion of lean. Lean, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean cutbacks. What lean means, it's the efficient use of the best resources available. A distribution center that has efficient use of the best resources available and the management of those resources are going to produce a higher functioning distribution center. Those resources that are available, obviously with profit, is all the associated warehouse management, barcoding, delivery reporting and systems, and good documentation of those procedures and executing those procedures in a proper fashion day in, day out. Okay, if you do that, if you implement these best procedures, you'll set yourself on the road to having a lean warehouse. You will find that you need less resources to operate your warehouse. Practices that the best operations have out there in their back end is they will have the right number of people doing the right things at the right time. Okay, so for every operation it's going to be a little different, but they will have the right number of people available for receiving, okay, and for put away, for picking, for delivery. If you have more trucks and drivers than you need, then you're going to operate at under capacity and you're going to be inefficient and experience a higher cost in your warehouse. A lean business, somebody operating with the right number of people, will be more towards the capacity that they need to be at. The closer an operation is to operating at capacity, the lower the cost it generally is going to be. You don't want to get to the other side too, where you're at overcapacity, because then you're going to be experiencing some inefficiencies there as well. So it's a balance. Distribution management is a balance, and every facility is different. A perfectly set up warehouse with racking and high ceilings and lots of space for prep and all that will always be able to operate better in their warehouse. That may be more costly, and it may be worthwhile, it may not be worthwhile. Another operation might just not have those in their cards. It might be a smaller warehouse, it might be a cheap warehouse, the ceilings might be low. Fine, they should still implement the best systems and procedures for the facilities that they are dealt with. If there's one thing I would like you to walk away with respect to distribution management, is look at your operation, see if there's an area to improve in. Every operation will have what we call a bottleneck. That's an area where work accumulates and it slows down the operation. So, and oftentimes these bottlenecks are where you have actually a very efficient and good employees, but they get work piled on them. So look for that area of bottleneck in your warehouse, seek ways to improve it, implement some better systems and procedures around that, and the whole flow of the warehouse will become better.